Please. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, friends from Montreal, welcome to all of you to our online Sangha for this evening. And we have a very special guest indeed. And I would like to welcome His Grace Yadunath Prabhu. I hope he's there.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to you, special welcome to you, Prabhu. I'm very happy to have you with us this evening.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to request Yashika to introduce our guest to our online Sangha congregation. Yashika, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I would like to welcome everyone once again to our weekly Sunday Feast program. Today we have His Grace Yadunath Prabhuji here with us today. Prabhuji has been a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga for over 20 years, and he's held sessions in ashrams and retreats all the way from New York to India, including improvisation, spiritual practice, and relationship building. He's also performed for devotees in many festivals and retreats, and has appeared as the host of the documentary Hare Krishna, 50 Years of Service and Joy. Currently, Prabhuji serves at the Bhakti Center in New York, and was initiated in 2002 by His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj at the very first ISKCON center in the world, 26 2nd Avenue, and currently he serves on the board of directors there. Prabhuji lives in New Jersey with his wife Ekan Bhakti Mataji, who is a professor of statistics and sometimes also performs devotional comedy with him. So I would like to welcome His Grace Yadunath Prabhuji once again and hand it over to him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. As I said, I'd like to thank Guru Prasad Prabhu, who invited me and the Ottawa congregation for having me tonight. Before we get going, just a prayer or two. Om Adhyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvashesha Shunyvari Paschatya Dekshatarni. Yes, thank you very much. So tonight's presentation is called George Harrison, The Philosophy Behind the Songs. I don't know how many of you are very familiar with George Harrison's work. I'm sure all devotees know about him, and that he was a very good friend to ISKCON, and Srila Prabhupada was one of his most important teachers. So I'm going to just take a couple of the songs. He's done so much, and kind of get behind the songs and see how he brought Bhakti Yoga into them. I'm going to start with a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. In the 3rd chapter, the 21st verse says, "Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues." So I had firsthand realization of that verse because I was always a big Beatles fan. And when George, I knew that George was involved with the Hare Krishnas. So although I didn't know much about the Hare Krishnas, I figured they must be cool if George is involved with them. There must be something to it, you know. So as a matter of fact, this is a little bit of background. I first went looking for devotees to find out more about it, based on my own desire for more spirituality in my life, and based on hearing about Krishna consciousness from George in his songs, which I couldn't really figure out everything to, but I got a little bit of it. So I don't know if any of you have been in the United States, in New Jersey. There's a Tawako temple. It's a big, it's a mansion that they converted to a temple, and there's this big stairwell that leads up to it outside. So I'm walking up those stairs, and there were a couple devotees out there on the porch, and I said, I'd like to ask a few questions. You know, every Hare Krishna wants to hear, you know, somebody say that, right? Is it okay if I ask a couple questions? And they got somebody out. They got me a brahmachari, and I spoke to him for about 90 minutes, and it was great. Months and months later, after I had sort of embraced the process, one of the brahmacharis told me that he remembers when I came that very first day. At the time, I had very, very, very long hair, okay, all the way down my chest here. And I was wearing a black leather jacket as I was walking up. So he told me that he was chanting japa in a window on the second floor of the building that looks out to the front of the building. And he saw me coming up the stairs, and he saw the black leather jacket, and he saw the long hair, and he said to himself, he told me, George brought another one. Meaning George Harrison has influenced yet another person so many years after he originally wrote all these songs. So whatever great action a man performs, common men follow. I attempted to follow at first George, and then the devotees soon after that, and of course my Guru Maharaj. So just a few things about George regarding the service that he's done. He's done a lot of service for Prabhupada in the movement. Actually, His Holiness Bhakti True Swami says that after Srila Prabhupada, George Harrison has done the most to spread Krishna consciousness around the world than anybody. That's Bhakti True Swami, not me, although I do agree. He started out as the guarantor of the Bury Place Temple, which was the first proper temple that the devotees had in London. They couldn't get it without having a guarantor, so he signed on as guarantor. He financed the publication of Krishna Book and wrote the foreword to Krishna Book. He donated the manor. I'm going to say that again because I don't want you to get confused. He didn't donate to the manor. He donated the manor. He bought the manor for Srila Prabhupada. He told the devotees, he said, I'll do this on one condition, that you always have to use this property to propagate Krishna consciousness. Devotees agreed, and so it was, and we have the manor today, thanks to George. He produced and arranged for and played on the Hare Krishna Mantra record that was released through Apple Records, which is the Beatles record label, Apple Records. And that Hare Krishna Mantra single was #1 in Europe. In America, it made the top 5, I think, definitely the top 10, I think the top 5. I think it was #4, and I'm not sure how it did in Canada, but I'm sure you all embraced it. And then the follow-up to that was so successful that he did the follow-up. So he did the Radha Krishna Temple album. And from that album, we get Yamuna Devi's wonderful Govindam prayers, Govindam Adipujishram Tamaham Bhajami, which we play, which Prabhupada mandated that every ISKCON center play for greeting of the deities. So he was also on that. But he's written songs about japa and karma and reincarnation and bhakti yoga in all forms. He's done quite a bit of service there. So the first song I'm going to go through is the very first song he ever wrote about God. He wrote many songs about God, about Krishna, but the first song he ever wrote about God was in 1968. It's called Long, Long, Long. And I'm going to share my screen so you can see the lyrics. I'm just going to read through those. Here we go. The lyrics are, it's been a long, long, long time. How could I ever have lost you when I loved you? It took a long, long, long time. Now I'm so happy I've found you. How I love you. So many tears I was searching. So many tears I was wasting. Now I can see you, be you. How can I ever misplace you? How I want you. Oh, I love you. You know that I need you. Oh, I love you. That's Long, Long, Long by George Harrison. And I want to go through that song bit by bit. I'm just seeing Mother Lakshmi Moni. Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here. Please give me your blessings to continue.
How are you? I'm so happy to see you. I was so happy when I heard you were giving class.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I'm
Hare
happy
Krishna.
to be here. Yes, I need your blessings to go on.
My blessings aren't worth anything, but whatever I have, they're yours.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm just now seeing volume is too low. I'll try to speak up a little bit. Okay, so where am I? Here we go. Okay, so the first lines are, it's been a long, long, long time. How could I ever have lost you when I loved you? This is the fall of the jiva. Okay, this can be a controversial issue, but Srila Prabhupada, I think, made it clear that we were with Krishna in the spiritual world. We are not born, we're not created once we take on a body. We've had millions of bodies. We were with Krishna, and because of our free will, we chose to leave Krishna and try to make it on our own. Okay, how could I ever have lost you when I loved you? We have this perfect relationship with the Lord. It's perfection. It's a very deep and pure love. But we are Tatishta Shakti, we are marginal potency. And that means our position is a little bit weak. That means we can live in purity, in love with the Lord, with him in his abode. But we can also are susceptible to weakness and to stray away. Now, Krishna gives us free will because love is not love without it. Any relationship is worthless if you're forced to be in that relationship. So Krishna gives us that free will, and by that free will, and by that weakness of mind, you might say, we may misuse that free will by misunderstanding our relationship and where it is in our best interest to be. So it's possible for the jiva, for you and for me, to think like, oh, you know, Krishna has it really good. I wonder what that's like. And when we get meditating on that, in a flash, Krishna will facilitate that. Out of love, he'll let us play that out. And we go through the cycle of repeated birth and death in the material world until we choose to go back with him. And he's not going to interfere with us. He's not going to stop us and say, look, you've had your fun, come on back, I miss you. No, he'll say, I miss you, I love you. I'm ready for you whenever you want to come back. Whenever you want to come back. So George says here, it's a long, long, long time. And it really emphasizes the point, because usually someone says like, it's a long time, or if they really want to emphasize it, they'll say, it's been a long, long time since I've seen you. But how often do people say it's been a long, long, long time? I mean, that really, and Prabhupada always said, 3 times for emphasis, right? It really drives the point home. We're talking about millions and millions, probably more, billions of lifetimes. And Krishna is with us. But we fell from grace in that way. And once we realize it, we have the regret. And this is what George is expressing here, his regret. How could I ever have lost you? How could I let you go? When I loved you so much, I realize I love you. And that's what we're trying to do here. The love for Krishna is there. We do not have to develop, we say develop our love for God. What we really mean by that is recover our love for God. Develop our stages where we can access our love of God more and more. Because the love is there, it's just buried. It's hidden beneath layers and upon layers of material contamination, material desires that keep us away from the Lord. And if, you know, all of us here, wherever we are on that path, we're on the path. And that's, you know, Krishna loves that. We're on the path. And you may be way up here, I may be way behind you, but I am also on that path trying to make my way back toward Krishna. So George continues, it's been a long, long, long time. Now I'm so happy I found you. How I love you. So here's the pause. We had the first verse with regret. In the second verse here, he's like, okay, I screwed up, but here I am now. I want you back. I will pursue you until you allow me to come back home. And of course, Krishna wants to make sure that we mean it, because so often, depending on our external circumstances, we may say, you know, Krishna, I'm done with this material life. And although we may mean it in that moment, we don't really mean it in our hearts. So Krishna will always wait until we really mean it in our hearts. And we don't always know when that is, but we can rest easy. We can have faith in Krishna because Krishna definitely knows when that is. And that's why he'll sometimes, excuse me, why he'll sometimes give us some challenges in our lives to make sure that we know where we are, and for him to show us exactly where we are. Say, yeah, you think so, but look at this, you know, and he'll put something in our path and we'll get distracted by that thing. And we should thank Krishna for those things, because otherwise we're under a delusion. We're inside of an illusion. We're under a delusion inside of an illusion. The illusion is I'm this body and I can exist separately from Krishna. And the delusion is, no, I really am sincere. I want to come back to you, Krishna. So he'll like, well, it's not actually true yet, but I appreciate your efforts. So keep going, keep going, keep going. And he'll show us. He'll always show us where we're at, man. He'll always show us. So be thankful for those times when he does. I know I have to remind myself constantly, like, you know, I'm going toward the anger. No, this is for my benefit. Everything that Krishna brings me is for my benefit. Thank you, Lord. So we don't have to meditate on where we've been. You know, there's probably many pious Indian devotees in the audience tonight, and you might not be able to relate to this, but for somebody like George or myself, we have a lot in our histories to be ashamed of. But in Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti doesn't want us meditating on that. Once we've embraced the process of Bhakti Yoga, it's full steam ahead. It's looking in the future, right? So it's not, don't worry about where we've been, but where are we going? We're going toward Krishna. So yes, how could I have lost you when I love you? But now I'm happy I found you. So let me live in that happiness, how I love you, and express my love for you continually in that happiness. And we get to understand what real happiness is. I mean, I can think of so many things that I thought were happiness in my previous life in this body. And I can think back on those times now, and I don't long for any of them. I long for the happiness that Krishna has allowed me to experience, and my guru has granted me glimpses of this joy that is incomparable to the pleasures that I have experienced earlier in my life. So full steam ahead. Then he says, so many tears I was searching, so many tears I was wasting. So Srila Madhvacharya said that each soul has shed enough tears since time immemorial to fill an ocean. Imagine that. Each soul has shed enough tears since time immemorial to fill an ocean. Sometimes people wonder, like, why can't we remember past lives? If you have these past lives and we're supposed to learn these lessons, why can't we remember them? And I think the answer might have something to do with this. There's so much pain that we've lived through that to remember our past lives, the pleasures that we've had, and I'm sure there were lots of them, would pale in comparison to the pain that we've gone through. I mean, just the pain of birth and death alone, let alone whatever happens in the middle. That's some heavy stuff. And what to speak of the the pain of losing so many loved ones. How many millions of loved ones have we lost? So many tears, searching for you, God, you, Krishna. But I didn't know I was searching for you. George said, I think the first line in his foreword to Krishna book is like, everyone is searching for God. Even if they don't know they are. Because we search for Krishna in so many other things. So the search for love in this world, the search for pleasure in this world, the search for accomplishment in this world, it's all really the search for the satisfaction of our relationship, our relationships with Krishna. Everything that we could ever want, all the things that we want in this world, all the things that we have and cherish in this world are there in our relationships with Krishna, except many, many, many millions of times more, many, many millions of times greater. So the things that we're attached to here and we're afraid of losing, and that's why so many of us are afraid of dying, we don't want to lose our attachments. It's not that those specific attachments are in Krishna, but the thing that we get from those attachments are there in our relationships with Krishna. So in my search for true happiness, true joy, unconditional love, through that search, I have shed so many tears, looking for you under the illusion that I could find these things on my own. And it's always the carrot in front of us, right? If I get this job, if I make this much money, if I can get this relationship with this woman, with this man, if I can have this, if I can acquire that, if I could just feel this, then I will be happy. But it will always be elusive. And there are people who have really cranking karma. They have great karma. So they may have all these things in space. They may have the money and have the things and have the relationship. And, sometimes we talk about people who, have all the material goods of the world, but, they suffer in so many ways. And that's true. But sometimes people just have it good every which way you look. But even those people suffer from old age, disease, and death, their own death, as well as their loved ones' deaths. So you can have it on, all those different angles, but still, we shed these tears. And he says, so many tears I was wasting. In so many places, Srila Prabhupada talked about how much time we waste. And in the introduction of the Krishna book, is one place of many, he says, because this human form of life is especially meant for self-realization, by neglecting this important part of his activities, one simply wastes his time like the animals. Like the animals. So, so George is getting in touch with this. So many tears I was searching, and so many tears I was wasting. And he says, now I can see you. Now I've found you, right? I'm back. I'm working my way back at least. And I can see you. He says, I can see you, be you. Which I don't know, when we were reading that before, I wonder if any of you kind of flinched at that. Is he advocating merging with Krishna? We're all God? Maybe. Remember, this is the first song George ever wrote about Krishna. And I'm almost certain that it was before he met the devotees, but he was on his search. He was exposed to Prabhupada. He had the, what was it called? The happening record, the record that Srila Prabhupada made where he speaks about Krishna consciousness and he chants. So his exposure was there. So like many of us have this impersonal influence in our pasts, this idea that we'll merge in and become God. And George was very good friends with Ravi Shankar. Ravi Shankar taught George how to play sitar. And George considered Radhi one of his gurus, one of his mentors. And I think there may have been an impersonal influence there. However, later on, as George evolved in his devotion, he made many, many statements affirming God's personhood. And we will get to one of them later on. So now I can see you, be you. How can I ever misplace you? Yeah. So again, he's kind of thinking back again, like, I just don't know how it happened. Because now I have, even now, wherever I am now, I have such a glimpse into the love that's possible that I don't know how I left it. And that's what a lot of people's problem is with how did we exist in the spiritual world and turn away from that? How could I ever misplace you when I loved you? It's a little inconceivable. At the same time, I personally can understand it. I can understand like envying Krishna to such a degree where I want to just try it out on my own, thinking like, don't worry, I won't get entangled. I'll just check it out and come back. But the entanglement happens before you know it sometimes. So then he continues, oh, how I want you. Oh, I love you. You know that I need you. Oh, I love you. These are not material sentiments. This is the longing of the soul for Krishna. This is Vipralambha. This is love and separation. I'm separate from you. Oh, how much I want you. You know that I need you. No question about that. How I love you. How I love you. So this is this longing of the soul for God, for Krishna. And George brings this out to more fruition in his most popular song, My Sweet Lord. Excuse me. where he really lays on the line, I really want to see you. I really want to be with you. I really want to know you. I really want to show you that it won't take long. It's such a heartfelt, sincere plea, and that's what's budding here. His longing for reunion with Krishna. So that's long, and in one way, it's ambiguous. Imagine listening. This was on the White Album, an album called The Beatles, which is commonly known as the White Album. And you can listen to this song and very easily, it's ambiguous enough that you could think it's about a woman, about his wife maybe. Excuse me. And that's the thing about George's songs, it's funny. I used to say with a few of my friends back in high school, with George, we'd say like, with Paul, Paul McCartney, you can listen to his songs. You just know he's singing about his wife, Linda. You just know it, right? John Lennon used to write songs called Oh Yoko and Dear Yoko. So you know who he's talking about. With George, we would say like, you never quite know if it's talking about God or his wife or some other woman, and in fact, years later, an interviewer once said to George, point blank, he said, sometimes I don't know if you're singing about a woman or Krishna. And George actually appreciated that question. He said, good, I like that. So I'd like to move on to one more song, probably one more song. And this song is called, this is a more direct song. There's no ambiguity here. This is called, It Is He, Jai Shri Krishna. And what I'm going to do first is just read 2 lines from his autobiography, which is called I, Me, Mine. And he writes about this song, It Is He, Jai Shri Krishna. He says, India, and in particular, my experiences in Vrindavan, inspired me to write It Is He. The whole town of Vrindavan is Krishna conscious. Everyone, everywhere was chanting Hare Krishna and various permutations on that. It was my most fantastic experience going to that place was great. That's something of what George says about that song. So I am going to share my screen again. We'll just read down the lyrics to, there we go, right? I'm having trouble here. Give me a second. Okay. Here we are. Okay, so it's a mantra. A lot of it is just a mantra. So Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe. He whose eyes have seen what our lives have been and who we really are, it is he, Jai Shri Krishna. And then he chants the mantra again. He whose sweetness flows to any one of those that cares to look his way, see his smile, Jai Shri Radhe. And then the mantras again. He who is complete, 3 worlds at his feet, cause of every star, it is he, Jai Shri Krishna. And then the mantra once again. Okay, so let's take a look at this. He whose eyes have seen what our lives have been and who we really are, it is he, Jai Shri Krishna. So in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the 5th verse, is the personality of Godhead said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So he remembers, not us, right? Who we really are. He knows who we really are. Not only in this life, he knows who we are. In the last life, in all of our lives, through all of our lives, he knows exactly who we are. He's seen everything that we've been through. He whose eyes have seen what our lives have been. He knows the happiness we've had in this world. He knows the pain, the suffering we've had in this world. He knows everything there is to know about us. He knows us better than we know ourselves. He remembers all of it, but we do not. We don't even know who we really are, But who does know? It is he, Jai Shri Krishna. He's traveling with us as Paramatma in our hearts. And that's how he is witness to this. It's interesting, once again, like the Vedic understanding is just so complete in so many ways. Because I'd always heard, and growing up in a Catholic background, I'd always heard, God sees us and he knows what we're doing. We're, in one sense, we never have complete privacy because God always knows. And it was always, in my mind, it was a very distant thing of God knowing and seeing everyone and being somehow able to know everything. But Srila Prabhupada has taught us how he is able to do that. He's traveling with us in our hearts. I guess this may be the Catholic version of the Holy Spirit, but the Paramatma is there in our hearts and witnessing us. And in fact, in the Mundaka Upanishad is that beautiful story of the living entity and the Lord are like 2 birds in the tree of the body, and they go together from one tree to the next, these different bodies. And the one bird, that's us. We're pecking at the fruits there of the trees. We're tasting those sweet fruits and we're tasting those bitter fruits, right? That's our suffering and our happiness in these different bodies and these different trees. But the other bird is just witnessing, just sitting there with us, being with us, always the love that it takes just to be a passive witness. I'm not going to leave you. You want to leave me? That's fine. And there was a song in a pop song in the 90s, I think it was, called "If You Ever Leave Me, Can I Go With You?" Which I appreciated the irony of that title. But this is what Krishna does exactly. So you can leave me, but I'm going with you. And he's just witnessing everything we do, watching us as we taste those bitter and sweet fruits. So Krishna knows who we are. The next verse is, he whose sweetness flows to any one of those who cares to look his way, see his smile, Jai Shri Radhe. So back to the Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter, the 29th verse, Krishna says, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So, so Krishna's love is not conditional. Okay, he whose sweetness flows to any one of those who cares to look his way. His sweetness is flowing. Right? It's like it's been said before. You know, when it rains over all the vegetation that needs the water. It also rains on rocks and oceans that don't need the water. So it rains everywhere, right? That's like Krishna's mercy rains over all of us. But in order to get wet, you got to leave the house and go into the rain, right? So you got to look Krishna's way, because he's, again, we said this in the beginning, he's not going to impose himself on us. But the second we are interested, boom, he's there. So it's an unconditional love, and the sweetness of love. But all we have to do, again, is it's our free will that got us into this mess, and it's our free will that can help get us out. I say help get us out because our free will alone, by our own volition, we can't get out of this mess. We can just show Krishna that we're interested, and we can show him how much we're interested. And we need to be sincere about that. And once he sees that sincerity, then he will actually take care of the rest, because we don't have that power. We just don't have that power. So we need to figuratively and literally look his way. We figuratively look his way, meaning I'm turning away now from material sense enjoyment, which is locking me into this body of suffering, and I'm looking your way now. I'm turning toward you, Krishna, for your help and for your love. Let me serve you instead of my senses, my own senses. So that's an intelligent use of free will, and it's the only use of our free will that will stop our suffering, quite frankly. Stop our suffering eternally. Also in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, verse 11, just as a supplement to the verse I just read, he says, Krishna says, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prabhu. So, yeah. So he rewards us accordingly. So you want this much of me, I will give you this much of me. You want this much of me, I will give you this much. If you want this much of me, I will give you this much. So he's on our side. He's rooting for us. He's encouraging us. Look his way, look his way, look his way, and he will bring us ever more closer. So did anybody catch the next line here? See his smile, Jai Shri Radhe. So here we have George expressing personalism. See his smile. So when I look your way, oh yeah, when I just remembered that I talked about figuratively looking your way, but literally looking your way too is, now I'm trying to get to the temple, right? Well, maybe not now, but in general now, I try to get to the temple and look at the deity, the beautiful deity forms of the Lord. And even on Zoom, see your beautiful Gaura-Nitai deities. So looking his way in as tangible a form as possible. And then you can see his smile. So on the deity form of the Lord, you can see his smile. Krishna's always smiling. In all the paintings, which Prabhupada said are the windows of the spiritual world, we can see Krishna's beautiful smile and be charmed by Krishna's beautiful smile, and that attracts us more. So we're trying to engage all of our senses. Like I said, I'm turning away from serving my own senses and trying to turn toward you and serve your senses, Rishikesh. So I want to see your beautiful smile, and in that way feel joyous and satisfied, fulfilled, a fulfilled heart through seeing the smile of the Lord. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Radhe. So that's one way George expressed his personalism, see his smile. And in the My Sweet Lord song again, he says, I really want to see you, be with you. Here's a quote from him from, I guess, maybe 20, maybe 30 years ago. He said, it's like the difference between hanging out with a computer or hanging out with a person. Like I said earlier, if there is a God, I want to see him, not just his energy or his light, but him. Okay, so this makes me think of that prayer where the devotee prays, please, remove your bright effulgence. So I can see you. Say again, please.
Hiranmayena Patrena Sachasyam Pitam Mukam. That I want you to remove your effulgence so I can see your smiling face.
Beautiful. He got that from George. Just kidding. Don't mean to make offense. Of course. Well, yeah, George was learning all of these things from Prabhupada directly and from the devotees. So I'm sure that he was exposed to that and incorporated that into his work. He has songs, I'm telling you, that he writes in his book were directly coming from his conversations with Prabhupada. It's quite something. So George, ultimately a personalist. Third verse, he who is complete, three worlds at his feet, cause of every star. It is he, Jai Shri Krishna. He's complete, the six opulences. He's complete in his fame, beauty, knowledge, strength, wealth, renunciation. He's complete in everything. The three worlds lie at his feet. They're all temporary. They're all material. These three worlds. But he's the cause of every star. He emanates creation, and creation is at his feet. And he's beyond creation, so he's not limited to the limitations of his creation. And of course, we have the invocation of the, there it goes. We have the invocation of the Ishopanishad. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So, so he is completely complete. We are parts. Prabhupada said we are parts and parcel of him, right? So when we sort of leave him, he's still complete. It's like, you have one pizza, you give out 2 slices, you don't have a whole pizza anymore. But with Krishna, you give out all the slices and you still have a complete pizza there because Krishna is complete. So I'm just going to move on here. I'm going to read one more thing from what George wrote about this particular song. It's the story of how he came to write it. It's brief. When we came back from the temple at about 5 a.m., it was still dark, and we sat in a room. Shripad, the devotee that he was visiting there, started singing a bhajan, got blissed out. Started singing a bhajan, to which we all sang the answering part, repeating it over and over. So kirtan. I got blissed out with my eyes shut and didn't want it to stop. Even when I felt it was going to stop, we would keep it going on. In the end, when it eventually did stop, the sun was so high it must have been 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. The time had flown by. Fantastic. And so he said to me, why don't you make that into a song? So what I did was take that old chant, Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, and then wrote the English words in between the verses. So that's how it came to be. And what I'd like to do is share my screen yet again and play this song for you, so you can really get a taste of it. So let me attempt that once again.
Share your sound.
Sorry?
You have to share your sound.
Yes, yeah, I'm going to turn that up. Thank you. This is about a 4-minute song. I think it's a little over 4 minutes, and then we will reconvene. How's the sound?
Yeah.
And there we have it. George had a very, very sweet relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada called him a very nice boy, very nice boy. And Prabhupada really appreciated everything that George did for him and for the movement, forwarding the movement. So much so that near Prabhupada's last days, he gave some disciples one of his rings, and he asked them to please give that ring to George. So imagine such a beautiful thing, being the recipient of that. Shyam Sundar Prabhu, you may have heard him speak about his relationship with George. They were very good friends. George said that in this life, he feels like there are three people that he's been traveling from body to body with, but three people that have been going everywhere with him in some form or another. And he said they were Ravi Shankar, Bob Dylan, and Shyam Sundar Prabhu. And George kept Krishna conscious. He kept putting Krishna in his songs until the end. He left his body in 2001. And he had Prabhupada chanting on, and there were devotees there at the time. And in 1999, someone broke into his home and attacked him and actually did stab him, but they weren't able to kill him. But when George came downstairs and he was pitted against the attacker, and the attacker leapt on him, trying to stab him to death, George was shouting at him, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So he had that presence of mind in such a frightful situation, a situation that most of us are afraid of getting into. How am I going to think of you when I'm so concerned with preserving the body? George had that presence of mind. And Shyam Sundar Prabhu has said that he thinks that George was actually realized. He thinks he was self-realized, and it happened at a very young age for him. So take it as you will. What I will leave you with here is the statement that the family put out upon George's departure. They put this statement out to the media. Quote, George left this world the way he lived it, the way he lived in it, conscious of God, fearless of death, and at peace, surrounded by family and friends. He often said, love one another, and everything else can wait, but the search for God cannot wait. Thank you very much. If anyone has any comments, I think we have a little bit of time left. Comments or maybe questions if I can answer them, or corrections if the case may be. Thank you. Hare Krishna. If not, we can also jump to the next activity, which I believe is Kirtan. We'll give people maybe another moment or so. And I'd just like to, once again, thank Guru Prasad Prabhu for the invitation. And thank you all for having me here. George has meant a lot to me. You know, I see my evolution as a person, actually, through the Beatles, because when I was younger, first got turned on to the Beatles, Ringo was my favorite. And those of you who don't know the Beatles individually so much, Ringo was this really happy-go-lucky guy. He's really funny. He's like a great guy to hang out with. Not that he doesn't have depth, he does actually. But I never took him on that level. So then I got to become a young adult, and then John was my favorite. John was a political activist, trying to spread peace and love. He told the truth, he told it like it was. I really respected how outspoken he was and how political he was. But then as I wanted to search more and more, explore more and more my spirituality, George became my favorite. And George was very broad-minded as a spiritualist. Don't think that he was, just in an ISKCON bubble, He had a lot of complaints about some aspects of ISKCON devotees, but he had very deep friendships with other ISKCON devotees. But he was open to many things, like I said, his friendship with Ravi Shankar. He was also, he hung out with the Self-Realization Fellowship a lot. There were devotees from that organization who were also with him near the end of his life. So very, very broad-minded, not sectarian in the least. But Hare Krishna was very, very special to him, and Prabhupada made an indelible impression on him. And in fact, I'll tell you this little tidbit since we have a moment. At one point, he actually did approach Prabhupada and asked him, what should I do? Should I shave my head and get initiated and join the temple? And Prabhupada's advice for him, he said, no, don't do that. You can do more good looking the way you look and doing your songs the way you're doing. You don't have to give that up. Just keep writing songs for Krishna. And he said, and I love this, he said, you're already initiated. You are Harisan, son of Hari. How wonderful, right? So, and just to show you how broad-minded Prabhupada was too. It's like, no, I don't want you in my cult. No. No, you spread the message of Krishna the way you are doing. Just keep doing it. And he took Prabhupada's instruction and kept doing that for the rest of his life. And yeah, he kind of fell in and out of graces with ISKCON association and various things, but he always kept that spiritual practice up. And Krishna was always real to him. He always had the relationship with Krishna. And this is, I know this from interviews and the contents of his work throughout his career. So it's not like he just did it in the beginning. His very last album, which was released posthumously, spoke of the same thing. So thank you all very much. I will turn it over to whoever it gets turned over to. Maybe Ilya Prabhu, I don't know.
Hare Krishna, Yadunath Prabhu. This is Guru Prasad here. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for giving us a better understanding of who George Harrison was. I didn't know, so I knew only one song, My Sweet Lord. So my exposure to George was very limited, very limited. But I knew that he did a lot for the devotees. As you mentioned, the very first temple, he was a guarantor. He gave the money for printing the Krishna book, as well as eventually the manor itself. So he has done great service to the movement, great service to Prabhupada. So no wonder, Prabhupada was very dear to him. So he also gave him how his broad-mindedness, that part I didn't know. And he gave many other songs also. I'm very happy to know even the lyrics you quoted, as part of your presentation. So it's wonderful to get to know George as a person, such a nice person. And I didn't know that much about him. So thank you so very much. I may ask you one thing. I thought Prabhupada said something about George's previous life. Do you know anything about that?
He did. He said something about John Lennon's previous life. It's in the Chant to Be Happy book. I don't remember what it is, but it was John, not George.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in finding out more, I mean, it used to be 2 books, Chant and Be Happy and Search for Liberation. Now it's in 1 volume. There's a transcription of a conversation between Prabhupada and George and John and Yoko. And there's also a lengthy interview that Mukunda Maharaj conducts with George. And it talks about Prabhupada talking about John Lennon's previous life and other things in that one volume, Chant and Be Happy Now.
Oh, I see. Okay, in that book, I see. Did you mention about another book?
I know it used to be 2 volumes, but they combined the 2 volumes into one, which is called Chant and Be Happy.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Okay.
Incidentally, one other thing. Yogeshwar Prabhu, it's a Prabhupada disciple, Yogeshwar or Joshua Green. He wrote a biography of George that made it to the New York Times bestseller list in America. Called, what is it called? Here Comes the Sun.
Here Comes the Sun?
Yes,
Here Comes the Sun.
Here Comes
Okay.
the Sun. The Spiritual Life of George Harrison or something like that. So I also recommend that book if anyone is more interested in more details.
Nice. So thank you so very much once again for kindly accepting our invitation to be with us this evening. And I have to tell you, this is very unique. Actually, we haven't had a presentation like this. Very often, it's based on the Shastra, but here is something a little different, but nonetheless focusing on the same.
Well, thank you for allowing me to change it up a little bit.
So, it's very, very, very nice. I want to know if anybody has anything to offer as in terms of their own appreciation. Please go ahead. We have a few more minutes. Hare Krishna. Okay, if it is not there, I think we will say bye to our.
I'm feeling the love coming from the screen. I'm feeling the love collectively coming. So it's fine. Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you again, Prabhu. So we'll be in touch. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, I haven't had opportunity to talk to any of you because normally we conclude the program with some kirtan. So any volunteers, please respond and say yes, you are available. It will be nice to have a short kirtan before we conclude the evening.